Okay, we're in Holyoke, Massachusetts. We're going on the tour of Cabot Street. And Cabot Street starts at Pleasant Street, and it starts right where the Forestdale Cemetery is, and we just passed that. And that's one of my tours. You're passing Sycamore. You're going to pass a lot of the Gritters Street names, and beautiful homes up here. All right, passing Locust, beautiful Victorian homes on the start of Cabot Street. But Cabot Street changes as you go down. It goes to some institutions, and we're crossing down Linden Street. More gorgeous Victorian homes on both sides of the street. But most importantly, on the left-hand side, you got the building called the Nautilus. Nowadays, it's the Care Center. But when it was the Nautilus, it was the home of a magazine called the Nautilus. And they were a new thought magazine, a precursor of the New Age movement. And the building used to be a Victorian home on the part that was closest to us, and had a tiny fire, and they gave that excuse to make a gorgeous big building where they could both live and have their big business. And about 10 people worked there on any given time to make their magazine. I think the magazine lasted for about 40 years or so, and it used to come out monthly, then it came out weekly, and it used to come out in 6 pages, and then it came out in 40 pages. It got bigger and bigger. And then on the right-hand side is the Fairmont Square, which is one city block of Oak Street, made by Stephen White, an architect and contractor. He made also a lot of buildings on Fairfield Avenue. But here he made 12 buildings, all Victorian homes, all the ground floor being a veneer of brick, and the upper floor is wood, but they all have nice porches to them. They all have wraparound porches in the second floor porch, and they're still gorgeous buildings and still quite worth your while to go visit and see the properties of a lot of these beautiful little homes. Now the blocks in Holyoke are positioned such that they are rectangles. The larger length is going north to south along the streets, which have mostly tree names, and then east to west you have shorter blocks, and we're on one of those now, and so the blocks come up at a furious pace. And then on the right hand side we have Wisteria, so we're passing by the front of Wisteria's. All right, the home of the Skinner family. And this year is the 150th anniversary of that home coming to Holyoke. The home is older, it's from the 1840s, but when it came to Holyoke, it was the year 1974. Okay, now there's going to be a lot of beautiful things going on right here, so we'll stop and point them out on both sides of the road. All right, on the right-hand side is now the Lawrence School, but in this big lot that's empty to our right used to be the Perpetual Help Church campus, the school, the rectory, the church, and the convent. On the left-hand side is the Presbyterian Church. It looks like a Richardsonian design, but it's not his. It's one of his associates. It's gorgeous. Now, coming up very quickly after our stop here is the Library Park and the Holyoke Public Library on the left-hand side. There's going to be a row house and other apartments facing it across Maple Street. There's also the Sons of Zion Congregational Synagogue for the Jewish people, and they've been here for about 80 years. And finally this year they're moving out for a school to come in here. And we're going to cross here Maple Street, and then quickly we're going to cross onto High Street. So Cabot Street is probably the most important of all the east to west gridded streets, because it forms the center backbone of motion east to west, and High Street would take that honor for the motion south to north. Okay, we're about to cross High Street now. This would have been a very busy place, but only the first 5 blocks were now filled up. Then other blocks going to the south are not as filled up anymore. And then you cross into the area of tenement homes, and mills. Right, we're crossing where the Far Alpaca Mill number 3 is now being rehabbed into apartments. And we're also crossing Canal number 1. And Cabot Street is one of the few streets that crosses 1, 2, and 3. So both on the left and the right, you see the first level canal. You also see the Innovation Mill on the right for the Holyoke Water Power Company, where small mills could come in and develop, and that's what that did for about half a century. Okay, then we're coming down to Ray Street, which means we're crossing the second level canal, both on the right and left. You're also crossing in front of the Grace Congregational Church on your right-hand side. And this was the third of 3 congregational churches. And then we're crossing Main Street, a very busy intersection. And here used to be a movie theater on your left-hand side. And most importantly, there's a Club Ibervilla building on your right-hand side that hosts professionals from the French-Canadian ethnic group of Holyoke. And at this position right here, I'll give you a stop. And on the right, is the rectory of the Precious Blood Church. Also on the right would have been the Precious Blood Church itself, now gone, taken about in the year 1989. On the left-hand side in the empty block would have been the position of the 2 schools, boys and girls, and then in the middle of the convent, right? But that boys' school left for another position on Southeast Street in this South Holyoke. Now, sadly, right beyond that, we're near the fire station, near the blue trash can, near the bus station sign. There used to be the wooden Precious Blood Church 149 years ago. In the year 1875, it burned to the ground. And so it ended up killing 70 people from that fire, most that day, but some of the days afterwards. A very sad fire. The Burnell family had 5 deaths, an apartment right across the street about 5 years after that. So this is a very sad corner. All right, and we're coming almost to the end. We're in South Holyoke. We're coming up to where the Wilmette Bridge is. All right, and there would have been tenement houses on both sides for us, because you're very heavy into a very work heavy mills around here, so we had a lot of workers around. Okay, so you start to see some of the mills coming up right here. The Riverside on the left, and in the distance is the Willamette Bridge. A trolley would have gone down here for about 50 years. All right, and we're turning onto South Canal Street, and we're getting to see where the end of Cabot would have been. Okay, here was many mills. So many mills, they're hard to name them all. The Chemical, the Newton, the Union, the Franklin, the Springfield Blanket Company, and the Riverside Mill number 1. Or some of the very many mills down here. There's also a pulp mill, a saw mill, and it's also the 3rd level canal. So Cabot is one of the few streets in Holyoke that crosses all 3 levels of this 3-level canal. So thank you for coming on this tour.